What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 257 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. I'm David Hain, and I'm happy that you joined me today. And just want to encourage you to listen all the way through. If you like it, please subscribe, follow, share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode is number 257 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast, and it's entitled Landmines in Recovery. I got this title because I got a call from a friend of Michael's. Those of you who are regular listeners know Michael is one friend of mine who goes on walkabouts with me often. And he said, David, I have a friend named Neil, and so Neil contacted me and said, I'd like to talk about the landmines that I'm facing in recovery. I'm an alcoholic, and it feels like my first 6 months trying to be sober, wherever I walk, I have to watch out for landmines. So I said, okay. And here's Neil and I going through a park we're calling Landmines in Recovery Park. Join us on this walkabout. At the entrance to the park, it says, Welcome to Landmines in Recovery Park. This park is not talking about just walking on eggshells or watching for a misstep or anything like that. It's that when the slightest misstep we take can cause an explosion in ourselves or in those we care about. And for many people, the common things that are part of recovery actually are landmines. So Neil says, I agree with that, David. That's what I'd like to talk about, and hopefully that's what they have in this park, because it's the common things that I'm finding out are landmines everywhere I go. Okay, Neil, let's go down to the first sign and see what they say for us. First sign says, triggers can be landmines. What do you think of that, Neil? Well, David, you see, my triggers are not people, places, and things, but it's how I feel when things happen, or how I feel when I'm in those places, or how I feel when I'm around those people. You see, my triggers are my emotions, like anger, frustration, and despair. And I don't know what to do with them. And then I'll give you an example. My family says, your triggers are not our problem. So because of that, they continue to drink wine and beer in front of me, knowing that I'm an alcoholic trying to establish recovery, and I have to face them at the dinner table with beer or alcohol right at their plates. So I can see how that is a trigger. And you had mentioned your emotions, so let's see as we go down to the next sign, what sort of emotions that might be triggered by stuff like that. Second sign says, our coping skills that we're given to work on in recovery can also be our triggers. So true for me, David. My coping skills that I work on are these waves of emotions. And I mentioned anger, frustration, and despair at the first sign. My big one is frustration. I'm frustrated that my parents don't understand that I really should be in an alcohol-free house while I'm establishing my strength in recovery. And I get frustrated that they just keep saying, your triggers are not my problem. So my frustration actually feels like I've fallen overboard in the ocean, and the undertow is not only taking me out to sea, but pulling me deeper and deeper underwater, and I don't know what to do. My coping skills don't work in that case when frustration boils over. Sure, that's a tough one to deal with, Neil. Let's move down to the third sign and see what they have to say for us. Third sign says, we've all made mistakes and we're all human. We'll continue to make mistakes, but mistakes can be landmines. Yeah, David, I hear all the time from people, you dug your own hole and by the mistakes you made, so you need to dig your own way out of it. But the problem is, every time I hear that, it's like deepens the hole. It makes me feel like I'm falling in and I can't get up, or I'm stuck in a rut and I can't steer out of it. And actually, I believe that the mistakes that I've made, as people keep rubbing them in my face, become landmines because it's like every time they look at me, all they see are the mistakes of the past. It's almost like, those wooden pilings on piers with all the barnacles clinging to the sides of them. You know, you get to where you look down and all you see are the barnacles. And that's what I feel around a lot of people. All they see are the mistakes of my past and they don't see me. Wow. Another tough one as we talk about the landmines that you're dealing with, Neil. I appreciate your input. Let's go down to the next sign. And the fourth sign says, we are family, but sometimes our birth family and our new family in a rehab or a halfway house are landmines to our recovery. David, I can tell you, I had enough trouble, pain, wounds, and hard time from my own family. And that was my whole life growing up. And because of that, I'm not comfortable with the thought of guys that I'm living with in rehab or people that I meet at an AA meeting saying, we're family, bud, we got your back. Because to me, just the thought of family is a landmine. It's like I see how I blew up my birth family, how I blew up my relationships and chance at marriage. And yeah, family is a huge landmine for me that I don't even want to talk about it. Okay, Neil, I can get you. Let's move on to the next sign. And this sign says, success. The thought of success and the definition of success and planning for success can be a landmine in recovery. That's so true, David. Every day sober is a success for me, but no one else views it as a success. They want me to set goals and be successful in life. They don't say, hey, well done, another day under your belt or another day clean and sober. They want me to keep looking ahead and build a successful life. And I just wish sometime I could have someone say, I see it and I admire you. It must have been hard getting through that day. No one is giving me that kind of encouragement, David. And as a matter of fact, because of all of those landmines blowing up of lack of encouragement, I don't even know how to give that to myself. I'd really like to be able to have just one friend who will look at me in the morning and say, I'm happy for you, man. I know it's tough, but you're staying strong. Sure. That is a hard one, Neil, and I hope you're getting some encouragement like that from me as we walk through this park. We've got one more sign to go. You ready to head down? Sure, David, let's go down to the last sign. And this is a quote from Homer Simpson on The Simpsons Show. And the quote is, to alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. Wow. David, that one hits me right between the eyes. It is so true. It's a painful truth in my life. Alcohol was the cause of all of my problems. It seemed like every time I came home with alcohol in my breath, another landmine would explode. Every time I came home drunk, another landmine would explode. But the only thing that I could do to get away from the landmines was to go out and drink some more. And so I can see how Homer Simpson said, alcohol's the cause of and the solution to all of life's problem. But this, as I said, is a painful truth to me. And to be honest, David, this has taken a lot of courage just to go on this walk with you, because I'm hiding from the pain. I'm hiding from the pain of my past. I'm hiding from the pain of the future. And I don't know that I'm ready to talk about either one on a regular basis. I'm that guy in groups that just sits still. I'm that guy who finds excuses to miss a counseling session because I don't know that I'm ready to talk about it, because talking about it means I'm ready to walk through a field riddled with landmines, and I'm not ready for that. Well, Neil, I'm so glad you were so honest and shared what you did today. Let's head on back to our cars. Sure, David. And I think, as we go back, if we meet again, some things I'd like to talk about, David, is how do I find a path in recovery where there are no more landmines? Is there anyone who will go ahead of me and remove the landmines, or who will walk with me in that field full of landmines and help me defuse them before they blow up? And finally, how will I know when I'm strong enough to walk alone? Wow. Deep stuff, Neil. Thanks so much. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If that touched you and you're saying, hey, I sound like Neil, that's me, then I want to encourage you to reach out, to join a group, to find that one person to walk through the field of landmines with you. You can contact me on the link in this podcast, or by email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com, or go to my website, www.froma2d.org, and click on the contact page. Keep listening to future podcasts, and as always, stay safe and stay resilient.